Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Radium and today I have another Terraria Calamity mod video for you, in which today I'm going to be doing something of a showcase video where I'm using the brand new Flamsteed Ring, I believe it's called. It turns you into a giant mech basically with variable weapons, options and customizations, and it is a great weapon in all fairness to it. It drops from Supreme Calamitas, I believe, and it does a ton of damage. So what I've done is I've put a compilation of it against every single boss in Calamity in death mode. Save for Supreme Calamitas just because it's nigh impossible in death mode. And I didn't have all that long today. With that said, I'm going to be maining the laser attack. There are various options with this weapon, where there are two attacks, a sword and the laser, and I find the laser to be a lot more versatile. And since this was my first ever time obtaining and using the weapon, I decided that I was to stick with it. It's really fun to use, but there are some minor drawbacks with using it. Just very insignificant little things, like it being not that powerful if you want to do well in bosses. Like, this is almost impossible to use in a late game boss, because you have to sacrifice damage for size. Otherwise you're this massive mech which doesn't gain any more defense, or you're a little dude who does 10 times less damage. So it's incredibly fun, but it's not that practical when compared with like different weapons from Supreme Calamitas anyways. Anyways, you're seeing it completely obliterate everything right now. It does extremely well, and obviously as it's a Supreme Calamitas weapon, it is so powerful that nothing really compares to it, in my opinion, from the summoner class at least. And yeah, I'd consider this the strongest summoner weapon in the game, because although it levels up your melee proficiency when you fire, it does count as a summon weapon. So it gains extra damage from wearing like an Auric Tesla summoner helmet, for example, rather than wearing other things. And above all, it's great fun to use. Here you're seeing the new Siren modified fight. This is a great battle, and it could just completely shred through the Leviathan. And obviously the new Siren. I can't read the name from here. Astrum Aureus gets destroyed. He was the first boss that tanked a little bit, really. And all of these just get shredded before they can really do anything. Even bosses like the Ravager get destroyed so quickly. And it's pretty much until, like, up until Providence that these bosses just die extremely quickly. Like, they don't really have a chance to show off their attacks or anything. Most of them, if they have phases, they don't even get to change to that phase. Save for bosses with invincibility frames in between. The only issue with the laser I noticed, this is something to note for people who want to use this for practical use. It's not very accurate, so you have to be relatively close to the enemy, or the enemy has to be very big for it to be good. I know it's a bad example to use for this Moonlord fight, but if you tried to do the Moonlord in Terminus, this wouldn't be viable, because you're missing about 2/3 of each laser. It's strange, but it is really good fun to use. But now we're into post-Moonlord content. First of all, we've got the Dragon Volley. Absolutely shreds through the first bit, and then just finishes them off before we can really do anything. I used the Auric Tesla armor after the Profane Guardians are defeated, which does a tiny bit of extra damage on the side, but nothing too significant, just because I wanted to be able to survive these guys. And obviously I want to do a test where I can use this weapon as fairly as possible, but when you're fighting something like Supreme Calamitas with 0 defense and no regen buffs, it's kind of hard to do. Now we're on to the Sentinels of the Scourge. Once again, it's one of these weapons which doesn't do well against Stormweaver. Nothing does, honestly. It's just kind of an awkward fight, but using the Auric Tesla set bonus would shred this, and one snipe through the tail does kill it. This could have gone badly because I did run out of flight time, but luckily I just about survived. Next up, we have the Ceaseless Void, which is one of the weapon's worst events possible. I don't really know what it was with this weapon, but it just made the game lag a lot. I'm terribly sorry for the stutters within the gameplay you might be experiencing, but it just really sucks. I know it's an unfair test, because Ceaseless Void is a bit of a strange boss, but this weapon is more of a, like, vanity item, I guess you could call it. A practical vanity item at that, but one that's cool looking but not that effective. and pretty much any other item, in my opinion, is better than this. With that said, it does shine a lot better against bosses without invincibility frames, such as the next two bosses coming up. Starting off with Poltergeist, it does quite well. And if you're aiming with the big one, it does so much more damage than the little one. I don't use the little one until Yorin and Supreme Calamitas, just because you don't need to. And here we are with the old Duke. Again, it does pretty well. Not so much so as the Poltergeist did, but pretty well regardless. Another issue I noticed with this weapon is that the laser has very limited range. It's kind of like the last Prism in the sense that you can't go as far away as you'd think, because it's not an infinite range laser beam, unfortunately. So you have to stay relatively close, and if you're a summoner, which you most likely will be at the time, you're going to have to tank hits with a class which isn't dominant with defense, which kind of sucks, but again, does a lot of damage, so. And you're able to have other summons active whilst using this, which is really nice, as far as I can tell anyways. You just saw the Devourer of God's first phase get absolutely smoked. Whereas the second phase, another new feature from the Rust and Dust update, is once you defeat the Servants of the Scourge, you never have to do them again, like once, even if you lose to the final phase of Devourer of Gods. If that makes any sense anyways. Alright, so completely shreds through once again. Now we're on to Yorin, which was the first incredibly difficult boss from this. There's no way around it, it's just complete insanity now. And I need to relearn my strategy. I just uploaded a Yorin guide and now it's obsolete because it's a completely different fight. Heck, I might need to re-upload something else and delete that video, but it's all good. You'll see the laser does quite well against Yorin because the point is the fight is in an enclosed area. And you'll see I'm using the smaller mech. In my opinion, the weapon stops being a Supreme Calamitas weapon once you change to this size, and it becomes more of a, like, post-Yorin weapon in my opinion. Something like that falls short of the Ark of the Cosmos or the Yoram's Crystal. Like, those weapons are slightly stronger than this in my opinion, and there's no point in using the smaller variant, because it's so much weaker and it doesn't give you any other advantages. Apart from the fact that you have a 2-in-1 weapon, basically. Anyways, this fight, I kind of scraped by. In my opinion, it's pretty close to being impossible as of now. At least with the gear you're supposed to have at the time. But I will figure out how to do it, and I will upload something along the lines. As we're edging nearer to the end of the fight, you're seeing me struggle a little bit. I'm honestly losing health, and I nearly have to use Godslayer at the end of this battle, which is very embarrassing, but what can you do, right? It's a new battle that no one understands yet, so using Auric Tesla is unfair, but so is using this terrible weapon which limits your mobility and weaponry. But the only issue is I have to completely relearn Yorin after spending weeks trying to perfect my method, which is really annoying. And it seems like I'm not going to be getting that Calamity mod no-hit out for a while. But there you go. The last boss we have to do is obviously enough Supreme Calamitas. Obviously the most difficult boss in this entire run just because of the sake of progression. It's a lot stronger physically and statistically. The first phase is, you know, fairly standard. This is a good test for the weapon because the Supreme Calamitas fight offers a very diverse amount of attacks, so we can compare it side by side to something like the Ark of the Cosmos if you guys want. You'll see it's doing pretty good work. It's doing consistently over 100,000 DPS. But one of the main issues is that you have to be perfectly aiming this ray. And since the ray only lasts for a moment and can't move whilst it's being fired like the last prism can, it's severely limited in terms of range. And if you're fighting a very fast enemy, say like a super buff Duke Fishron in the Terminus boss rush event, it's not good at all in my opinion. You're better off using pretty much anything else. And it is doing alright damage, it's just not great. You know, it's just the argument that it's being outshined by weapons so much weaker than it. And in my opinion, this should be a summoner option pre-Supreme Calamitas to use. Like, for example, you can use this for Supreme Calamitas the first time around and it gives you like a defense boost or something, rather than just being difficult. Additionally, this is going to be so difficult if you try and like main any sort of damage. You won't be able to use the big mech for anything, which is the main selling point of this weapon, as it's just too easy to get hit by everything. And literally, Yorin and Supreme Calamitas have bullet hell style battles now, so you physically cannot use it for either of them, even if you want to. Unless you want to die a very swift death. We're edging towards the later phases, and unfortunately I have to say this weapon is not very efficient at all. I know obviously something like the Ark of the Cosmos or Yoram's Crystal isn't much better, but they're still far superior to this in my opinion. If only this weapon had like various different attacks or was affected by summoner accessories, that would be really, really nice. Or having the ability to like make a giant robot with the new Draydon's technology would be a good idea. Like, you can like get the pieces all throughout the game, maybe they drop from like different bosses, and then at the end of the game you craft this massive mech. That would be a brilliant idea. But you know, we're edging towards the end of the battle now, and I feel like I've been slating the weapon. I'd still be extremely happy if I got this from Supreme Calamitas, because it's such a cool weapon to have. I didn't mean to sound like I absolutely hate it, but there's just so many drawbacks when compared to other weapons, and compared to other summons, it's just not ideal. But it is a good weapon for the summoner class, as if you use the small one, it's basically a free 100,000 DPS if you're good at aiming. With that said, I'm going to let the remainder of the fight roll out. I have to say thank you all so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, then feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.